Please support this podcast by purchasing Tio MacDonald books, found on both Audible and Amazon. Thank you. Hello, this is Tio MacDonald of the East Oakland Times talking today with Quentin St. James. Thank you, Quentin St. James, for giving us a call from California Death Row. Thank you. Now, Quentin St. James' podcast is called One Main Street Dead Man Talking. One Main Street Dead Man Talking. We got into the reason behind that, and at San Quentin, the main road is called One Main Street. Can you hear me today, Quentin St. James?
Yes, sir.
Okay, excellent.
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Morning. Thank you for calling. Appreciate it. We have no rain today yet, and some blue skies. I don't know if you're bayside or yard side. I forgot, but
I can see it.
You can see it.
I got a little kind of a dingy view from my cell out there, and I can tell that the sun's out there.
Yes. Can you tell me, Quentin St. James, what year it was that you were brought to San Quentin, to death row?
I was brought to San Quentin October 1996 after a 5-year stay in the county jail, going to various hearings and such, and finally I went to actual trial in right at the same time of the Olympics and O.J. Simpson's trial. So it's kind of very vivid in my memory. And
yes, so you were on trial. You were in the county, going through the court process. Yes.
My jury was actually in the jury room deciding my case when the glove don't fit, you must quit came about. So
yes,
it I kind of took it as a knee-jerk reaction from the jury, and actually had 2 jurors get up and say, "We don't believe he's guilty. We were made to plead. We were made to vote guilty." So that's part of my ongoing appeal. So it was kind of a messed up situation,
And you're talking about your own case now, or the O.J. Simpson case?
Yeah, I was talking about my case. At the time that O.J. was acquitted, there was an angry pushback by most Americans. One time that a trial, all the benefits of having lawyers in a trial and everything kind of worked in the positive for the defendant, which is very rare.
Yes.
Very rarely does that happen. And the one time that it did, there was this knee-jerk reaction, right? And everybody was like, the justice system's broken, right?
Oh, right.
So
with O.J. When O.J. was yes.
Yeah. And I even told the judge from the jury's verdict, I said, "Your Honor, this is a reactionary jury to the O.J. Simpson verdict, and I really think it's a travesty of justice." And then I had 2 jurors actually get up and say, "Oh, we don't think he was guilty. We were forced to plead guilt, to vote guilty on the issue." And like I said, that's part of the ongoing appeals. So my case is actually appealed. My appeal is actually based on innocence. So it's an ongoing issue.
Which is to say that you're innocent of the crime.
Well, that's what I said. My appeal is based on factual innocence of the case. See, I wasn't convicted of first-degree murder.
Yes.
I was acquitted by the jury. I was acquitted by the jury of first-degree murder. And I was acquitted by the jury on the gun allegation, which means they didn't believe I was a shooter. But they found me guilty on a technicality. It's called first-degree felony murder. That's where someone dies in the commission of a felony, and they charge you with a murder. So that's what the jury fell on, and actually during my trial there was no issue of any other crime being committed other than the murder, right? So how they came up with that is you know,
Wow.
it just kind of, it's a mystery. But you know, I'm stuck in the struggle, and you know, sometimes sometimes things just seem to work out, and they don't work out. You know,
So someone
that's kind of my
died.
dilemma.
Someone died, and that you were acquitted of murder, meaning that there was no voluntarism on your behalf, and that's why you were
Yeah,
in the county.
yeah. Well, like we're seeing in popular in the news right now, and we saw yesterday where people come up and testify and say something, that someone did something and they implicate them, and you know, to get out of a bad situation. You know, like we saw with Cohen yesterday. He's actually trying to get a reduced sentence.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
That's what he's trying to do, right?
Yes.
And so you know, in all factuality, he's a convicted liar, you know,
That's right.
perjurer, and his charges had nothing to do with what the president is being investigated for. They were all about his dealings with the bank and his lying to Congress. So that's what he's convicted of. You know, fraud to the banking system, and lying to Congress. And yet Congress brings it back up again. And this time we're supposed to, you know, take for granted that he's remorseful and he's telling the truth, and then convict the president. You know, so
Right.
to speak. That's the way I kind of saw it.
Yes.
And that was my reality.
Yes. And this is
people
respect.
actually,
Yes. Just so we
people
know,
actually got.
future listeners may need a reference point. This is Michael Cohen. It's February 2019. He just went to the Congress and said a number of allegations against the sitting president, Donald Trump.
Yes. So I don't know how we got into this, but you know, I guess this was, you know, it just come to it. You know, it's a hot item, and it's something we can all relate to. Especially a lot of people in prison. You know,
Yes.
a lot of people in prison are not behind bars because they were actually caught doing something.
Mm-hmm.
They were implicated by people who were implicated in something and made a deal, you know, to stay out of prison and put someone else in prison, right?
Yes.
And in most of these cases, we found that these so-called jailhouse informants were lying anyways, and we have case after case of people that have been, you know, after many years in prison, have been set loose because, you know, they found out, it was, you know, they were convicted on false testimony, right? So I'd like to stop there, and I think, you know, everyone could take that for what it's worth and go with it.
Well, it's appreciated. It's appreciated because, you know, we're talking about unnecessary suffering. And then on the other side of the coin, we're talking about damage happening. For instance, there is a killing, and the question is who did it, and
Yeah.
you know, DAs. What is it? I mean, what are your thoughts on DAs?
No, wait. You know, we're going to open up a big can of worms there. You know, listen. Yeah, I don't think, you know, it's like I said last week. You know, there's this old commercial, this kid running, and he says, no kid no child ever grew up wanting to be, you know, a dope fiend. And he showed this kid running, you know, this teenage kid running from the cops, right? I don't think, you know, anyone, whether they're a defense attorney, wanted to be a crooked defense attorney, or whether they became a prosecutor, wanted to be, you know, I don't know, you know, excessive, very overly zealous in their pursuit for justice, right? To put it lightly, and yeah. So
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
We can't help it. We live in a world full of different dynamics, pulling and pushing from all directions. People are, because of values, certain values they hold, and character issues, flaws, so to speak, that are pulled in in various different directions, and the result of their working careers, come to light later on to prove to have been, ignoble,
Yes.
For lack of a better word.
Mm-hmm.
We, in the Me Too movement, just recently, we've seen men of high stature and important positions, their sexual powers now because of their character flaws, are just coming back to haunt them.
Right.
The chickens come home to nest, so to speak. We've all sown wild oats, and when there's an old proverb: you sow to the wind, you reap a whirlwind, right? And we talked kind of about that last week. I lived a lifestyle that was headed in this direction, and it's no wonder that I ended up here. But it doesn't mean that I did what they said I did to get here, right? So,
Yes.
So that said, last week we touched on some of these issues of values and the paths that others have gone down, chosen to go down, and the contrast of noble and ignoble examples of people. Just to name a few that I gave was
Rosa Parks, Martin Luther King.
Yeah, Martin Luther King, and then some more benevolent ones like Karl Marx, Lenin, Stalin, so on, right? And even worse. So, I used earlier in our conversations privately, we were talking about here in the Bay Area, we can, I can't, but you can see sailboats, going in different directions, yet they're driven by the same wind. And it's the old, kind of a cliche. It's not the wind; it's the tilt of the sail. So that's kind of where we can pick up.
Yeah, that's a great statement. It's a great thing to unpack, and it makes a lot of sense.
Here we can pick up with, identity. Our identities are formed at a very early age, and we live in a society that our identities are formed by approval and disapproval, in various different ways.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
And we're going to have to pause at that and then come back to this issue.
Very good. Yes, sir. Quentin St. James, 1 Main Street, Dead Man Talking, and we'll come back with a discussion on identity. Thank you, Quentin St. James, for calling.
Thank you for allowing me.
This is Global Tel-Link. You have a prepaid call from
Quentin St. James.
an inmate at the California State Prison, San Quentin, California. This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded. To accept this call, say or dial 5 now. Thank you for using Global Tel-Link.
Hello, this is Tio MacDonald of the East Oakland Times talking with Quentin St. James, and we're just about ending February. It's the 28th. Thank you, Quentin St. James. And the last statement that I was holding on to was the sailboat metaphor and how the sailboats are going in many different directions, pushed by the same wind, but guided by the navigation.
Yes, sir. Yeah, that's kind of a mystery, but people that understand sailing they know it's a tilt of the cell. In real severe winds, there's this process that I forget exactly what the term is, but where you can sail against the wind in a very strong gale. It's called tacking, and we take wide sweeps, and with each sweep in an opposite direction, you eventually work your way to the shore as opposed to, sailing directly toward the shore against the wind. So it takes skill. It takes navigation skill, and
Now, how about you? Are you tacking at California's death row? Yes.
I've been tacking all my life. The only difference between me now and then was I was sailing away from shore, tacking, and working very hard at it, with a very strong onshore breeze, gale, whereas opposed to now, I've got a strong gale coming from the shore, and
Yes.
making my way more difficult, but
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
it's a learning experience,
Yes. Yes.
the way back, the way back, people don't stop and think about this, The way back is very hard. It's very hard.
Wow.
Especially after you've burned all your bridges on your way out, right? And, it kind of gets, but it forces a person to reach deep down inside, and muster, a strength that wasn't there. They didn't know it was there. And in my case, I have where my compass was broken in the past. Since we're on this metaphor, my compass was broken in the past, and the charts that I had were fakes.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I have a good compass, a moral compass, and the charts that I have now are I'm finding to be very accurate.
What I hear your statement referring most to is the way back to one's better nature, because I have the sense that family, friends, and loved ones, we can, if you get to a good place, you can understand where they're coming from, and work with it. But to get to that better place.
That I come from a very dysfunctional family. Everything was broken. Okay, all my siblings, parents, and a lot of their my parents' siblings and such. It goes back. It's generational. So
Yes.
I didn't have a lot to work with. But now I understand the importance of a good, functional, whole, and healthy family environment. I understand that. It's basic. It's the most important thing that we can have. Even in broken, in most broken families, there's one strong parent remains and becomes an influence on that person. Colin Powell's mother, for instance. He grew up in, I believe it was the Baltimore, Maryland area ghettos, kind of some of the worst in the nation.
Yes.
But he had a very strong mother of strong character. And she held his nose to the grinder and developed in him, everything that contrary to everything that was around him. And that stayed with him throughout the rest of his life. And he often spoke on that, right? So, I understand that today. It's very important that we have, if not two, positive role models as parents, that we have at least one. And it's a shame that I have to make that statement and say that we at least have one. But that's the society we live in.
Mm-hmm. What was prison the reason why that you found yourself from against all your upbringing, against all your behavior? Was it the circumstances of prison that brought it about?
Well, okay, you opened this, okay, and I didn't want to go here. I told you last time people were going to think I was on drugs. I was walking a prison yard. I'm going about prison, my regular prison business and everything. And one day, coming back from my job assignment, it had been, it'd been raining pretty heavily there in the Inland Empire area. And that sets between kind of two mountain, minor mountain ranges. And it's, kind of a valley area that goes all the way up into, up to past Riverside and such. But it covers most of the San Bernardino County, some of the LA basin. But the storm blew through kind of quickly, and then sun breaks loose. And I'm on my way back to the dorm, and all of a sudden, everybody on the yard's looking at the sky, pointing right, saying, "Oh man, look at that!" And I look, and there's a beautiful rainbow just traversed the whole valley there, right? And this presence steps up beside me, puts his arm around me, and says, "James, you know what that is?" Well, everyone's heard the rainbow story of Noah, right? I guess. I had heard it when I was very young. And I said, "Yeah, that's your promise, you're not going to destroy the world again, by flood, right?" And he says, "Very good, James." And he says, "Now watch this." And another rainbow appears with that rainbow. So now there's two rainbows in the sky. I look around, and everyone on the yard's going, "Wow, man, look at that." So I'm not the only one seeing this, right? And the voice says, "James," this is the voice inside my head, says, "James, do you know what that means?" And I just said, "I don't have a clue." And he said, James, this won't lead to death." 15 minutes later, they had me, and they were charging me with capital murder, and they were seeking a death penalty. I was thrown into the deepest, darkest part of the prison you could be in, and where guys knew me and everything, but they noticed there was something different about me. And in time, it became very evident that I wasn't the same guy. I must have turned, and they were all afraid. So I got everybody, from the blacks, the Mexicans, the whites, and all the others, plus the Border Brothers and everything, wanting to kill me, right? And I just started having some phenomenal experiences spiritually. I was placed in a, like I said, a maximum security environment, what they call a special housing unit, where you're completely segregated. And I got hold of an old Bible, and I just started reading it. And as I read it, there was this presence that stayed with me and started giving me understanding into the things that I was reading. It was kind of like, that other dimensional type of thing was happening to me, right? So I wasn't, really what do you call an intellectual, but all of a sudden I started going, getting more and more acute intellectually in my understanding and seeing things from a different point of view.
Just so I understand, when you entered death row, just so I understand, did you know people who were already on death row?
I had run across paths with people that ended up here.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned one last week, I think, Christian.
Yes.
We go back to 91. If it's the same person.
Yes.
So I know.
Oh.
I know what he was like in jail, and in other prison areas and such. So, one thing about this life, when you choose that path, you cross paths with a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I was known and, had a certain amount of respect and reverence because of, that the identity I had at that time and such like that, right? But then once this change took place in my life, when you're living at that high intensity, you notice people's changing. When they, there's the, you notice when someone's different, and all the alarms go up. Is this guy is he wearing a wire now? What is he? Is he turned and this and that? So, it can get live.
Yes. Wow.
And
yes.
The fact that I survived. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the fact that I survived up until now, and even now, I'm paying. This ain't no picnic. I'm still now considered a public enemy number one. From that side. So the only thing that keeps us apart are these bars.
Yes. Yes.
So it's kind of like, You see, when you step out of that, there's different ways to do it, right? The way it happened to me was I changed all of a sudden. The next thing you know, I'm telling people, I'm exposing all the deep, the dirty secrets of the trade. How we're being manipulated and controlled, and why.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
What's really happening, and trying to enlighten people with, to motivate them to come out, and find a new way of living. And,
right.
and the path that I've chosen, the path that I've chosen, I have a very strong Judeo-Christian ethic now. That's where I get my identity. Kind of what we were going to start on. Back then, my identity was a gangster. A criminal. A bad guy. Anything was dark and dubious. My tattoos, are more demonic than anything. And I got where I thought my approval was from people from that environment, and that's what validated my experience. And the affirmation I received was, that people accepted me that way. Peer pressures. It wasn't so much about peer pressure as it was about, it was feeding that fantasy I had of an unrealistic identity. That was.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
And we'll have to come back to that. They brought the phone late, so I'll probably I have one more call left in me if you can handle it.
Oh yes, Quentin St. James, thank you for the call, and thank you for this topic, these discussions, and we will be back with the listening audience. Thank you, Quentin St. James.
This is Global Tellink. You have a prepaid call from
Quentin St. James,
an inmate at the California State Prison, San Quentin, California. This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded. To accept this call, say or dial 5 now. Thank you for using Global Tellink.
Hello, this is Tio MacDonald of the East Oakland Times on our third call with Quentin St. James. And Quentin, you said that an arm went around you. Was that a mental arm or a physical arm when the rainbows were going?
I mean that presence with that arm around my. No, it felt real.
Oh wow!
That was what was so noticeable. Was there was a presence, though I couldn't see it, I could feel it. As if someone had put their arm around me and was talking to me in my ear.
Yes.
But the voice I heard was in my head.
And they said,
So
in that
that,
voice, yes.
yeah, that was my epiphany. That was my life altering experience right there. And that's where another. I like to say sometimes maybe people might have to take issue with this. I feel like I got hijacked. You know what I mean? Kind of like Paul got knocked off his horse by a flash of lightning, and a voice said, "Saul, Saul, why are you kicking against the gallows?" Right?
Yes.
And yeah. So and it's kind of like that experience. After that, Paul, he went through an identity change and a name change, and then everyone wanted to kill him, right?
Yes.
So I relate really, really big with his experience. And nowadays, that's kind of where,
Right.
The level I operate from. People like to get in conversation. They talk about all the girl things, the drugs, girls, and the issues, crimes, and all that, right, and everything kind of stuff. And I don't. Somebody pulls up beside me on, we're on segregated yards. When I go out the yard, and most people avoid me because they know what I'm going to talk about, right? And I had a little group of men where we were, we very purposefully and outwardly have a Bible study, invite people to join us, and it fluctuates from time to time.
Yes.
The amount of people that attend. So that kind of is my motive operandi these days, right? Well, I used to teach people how to pick locks and overcome security and how to do this and all that, and do harm instead of good. I now try and teach people how to cope with life and turn our negative experiences into
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
positive examples.
Are you on East Block or North Side?
I'm in East Block, yeah.
Okay.
I'm in East Block on the Bay Side. So I spent a lot of years on the yard side. It's a lot more dynamic there, and so that's where most of the hardcore, really are. And here recently, I think somewhere around Thanksgiving, I was moved over here.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yes, and I thought it was interesting. I mean, you mentioned, and the Paul analogy makes perfect sense, where there was a conversion, and then afterwards, it was interesting how light bulbs went off in other people's heads about your change, and I'm kind of curious if you kept that change to yourself, or if you immediately started preaching.
That's something you can do, like a city on a hill, man. You can't. You don't hide something like that.
Mm-hmm.
You don't.
Yes.
You're in the night sky, and you see a city lit up on a hill, and it's hard to miss. And that's what happened. I went from darkness to light, man. Mm-hmm. I like to. For my own picture, I was like a bowl, whether common or silver or what. I like to think I was a silver bowl. They're full of a lot of, tarnished and full of a lot of disgusting things. And I was turned upside down, wiped clean, polished, then set up, and then poured out into my life a lot of goodness, a lot of grace, a lot of love, and
wow.
A lot, patience, all the fruit of the spirit. Just there was an over, a sudden, dramatic change, and you don't do that in a deep, dark prison situation and get away with it. But I've gotten away with it, and it's because of the hand of grace on my life. And, now, I was soft selling it up until now, but you opened this up, all right? So.
Oh no, the analogy is perfect. The analogy is perfect. That makes perfect sense. There's
a lot of people that don't know. First of all, they've never read the Bible. And everything they've heard about is really negative. And they have a lot of examples out there of different preachers and ministers and all that that were child molesters and crooks and all this and all kind of things, right? And we're even seeing out there today. And all of a sudden they hear this and they're going, yeah, okay, all right. Another one of them, right? But, so like I said, up until now I was trying to soft sell it, and I want to, for their benefit, I'd like to bring it back down to earth a little bit, because I live on a mountaintop today. I have a view from the top down, whereas opposed I used to be in the valley and I was looking up, right? My perspective was all, that which was around me, and every now and then glance up toward the top and see something that was, impossible to reach. And I live there now, but I'm quite capable of, of coming down and getting in the mix and the mingle, and that's how I like to do it, because that's where, and mediocrity is where most of us live.
How about yourself? I mean, was that where you lived when you weren't, when you were a criminal?
I was substandard to mediocrity. That's the what dubbed by Hollywood the underworld, in society. So, I was kind of, look, I grew up at 6 years old shining shoes on the street to sailors, Marines, hookers, dope pushers, and pimps, all the criminals from every sort, burglars to car thieves and all that. I was shining their shoes, making money, and trying to take some of the money home, to share with my brothers and sisters and buy things that my mom wasn't able to do. Are you still there?
Yes.
Okay. I thought we got disconnected. And so, my views of life were substandard. When we talk about mediocrity, we're talking about standard, where I choose to live today, although, in a kind of a, prison's a cesspool. People that romanticize prison life got something wrong with them, okay? You see it in the movies and stuff like that, and they romanticize it, and it seems to be popular. I hear that people are buying prison clothes online out there.
Wow.
for phenomenal amounts of money, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our imagination, fantasies, things like that are not realistic. They're really not, and we choose to feed those, and then nowadays, there seems to be this large, chunk of our youth are going toward things that are more, substandard.
Were you ever married?
Yeah, failed marriage, 2 sons, failed. Don't even know. I was when I was first locked up in prison as an adult. My wife was like 6 months pregnant, and I had a 4-year-old. So she went her way and divorced me because I was facing a lot of years, murder and all that. So I was down in Texas, and she has her own life. They have their life, and they choose that I'm not a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
So and rightly so. It's akin to abandonment. My responsibilities as a husband and a father and provider, doing it the right way, and chose to try and do it another way. The fast and easy is a lie. Fast and easy is a lie, and that's what people are looking at today. The fast, easy way to to get to the top.
And how old were you when you were convicted of murder in Texas?
I turned 25 in the county jail in El Paso.
And that
I was
must,
looking
yeah.
at I was looking at death penalty then. But what I did was you know, I just said, Your Honor, I'm guilty. I did it, so, be kind to me,
Oh,
He gave me 30 years. Yeah, he gave me 5 to 30.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
So
yes.
I'd never been in adult prison, I'd never been in adult prison. And when I got there, you just start rolling with it, I did some positive things. I got a GED. Did a bricklaying trade union thing, and then they started a regular high school program. I did that, and then I went on to a junior college program and completed 42 semester hours with Baytown, Lee College out of Baytown, Texas. I mastered. My degree plan was in psychology, and I moved it over to cultural anthropology, and I maintained a 3.75 grade average.
How many years did you serve?
I served 8 years, 3 months, 24 days. I was paroled, came back here to California, and caught another beef, ex-felon with a firearm. Got a 3-year sentence on that. I was out like maybe 27 days, and they charged me with this murder. Well, I got violated, went back to prison, and then they charged me with this murder.
Oh, okay. So you violate. Okay, I get it. So just so listeners know, violation of parole for the gun, possession of a gun as a felon, and then while in prison, they brought about the charges, the charges of first degree murder, which brought on this death penalty.
Right, and because I had a prior, the prior was the enhancement. That's what did it. So it's the devil's in the details. It's a long story. That's the short end of it. So, but getting back to.
And I appreciate it. And we're running out of time. It's 14
You have
minutes.
60 seconds remaining.
But do appreciate it because it's been stated from the
listen,
beginning.
I want
Yes.
to leave everybody with a gift. All right. A really pleasant. You said you had a religious experience this morning. Well, I had something similar. It's called Heaven Ease. Heaven Ease. Spelled Heapenese. That's the name of the group. And the song is called The Silk Road. I'd like to leave everybody with that. Check it out. And also with Benny Level Martinez, thewarriorlevel.com, ex-Miami gang member.
Excellent. Thank you, Quentin St. James, for the call.
Pete.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
And look
I'll
forward
try
to
and
talking
get
to you
back
again.
next week.
Okay, very good. Quentin St.
Bye-bye.
James, 1 Main Street, Dead Man Talking, and great balance between discussion of past and present. Thank you. This is Tio MacDonald, East Oakland Times.